My name is Paul Schrager, and I sang with the Eltones in 1957 and 8.
Perfect. And I guess before you guys started singing in the group, could you tell me a little bit about your kind of musical experience growing up?
Well, my musical experience was my mother loved music, and she used to take shorthand because she worked for attorneys. So when she heard a song she liked, she would write it down in shorthand and then put it into print and teach my brother and I the song so we could sing it at home. And my cousin Stuart, who sang lead on most of our songs, his mother took him for acrobat, tap dance, and singing lessons. And he used to sing at the Brooklyn Museum and shows and everything. So he had that show experience on stage. So he was perfect to be a lead singer.
Perfect. And then, what kind of got you into singing like vocal group music?
I have to give credit mostly to what we called back then Negro spiritual music, because I just fell in love with every Sunday morning I put on the radio, the AM radio, and I go to the back stations and listen to the church music and the choirs and the harmony. That's what really got me, listening to harmony. And then, you know, that was even before Doo-Wop music caught my ear. What really got me with rock and roll music was, I remember sitting in a candy store, which we had many of in Brooklyn on the corner, and they always had a jukebox. And there was a record playing in that jukebox by Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, Why Do Fools Fall in Love. And I could not get that song out of my head. It was playing in my head all night, even when I was trying to sleep. And it just got me crazy. Started listening to more groups on basically G Records. So it would be groups like Teenagers, and there was a group that I liked, and a couple of groups. I can't think of all their names right now, but and I would always listen to the harmony, and I loved the bass when the bass would start a song. That would really get me. And so I said to my friends that we were hanging out with, why don't we try to harmonize a little? You know, we go out of the candy store and stand on the corner, like everybody said they did, just like everybody, and we would try to sing the same songs. Like we'd sing one of the songs we liked to fool around with was "Oh Baby Don't," which was used by the Heartbeats, and another one would be Zoop. Or I think it was Zoop, one of the upbeat songs we used to do. And it started sounding okay, you know. We started doing it more and more, and before you knew it, we were recording on tape recorders for ourselves and thinking and the thing is that Harvey, who I went to junior high school with also, he was a very good piano player. He could play Jerry Lee Lewis on the piano, and he wanted to write songs and make our own music and audition. So the next step was, once we felt we were good enough, is to go to the Brill Building in New York and start knocking on doors. And I didn't think we were that good, but the song that we picked to sing for people was At the Hop, because that was a very popular white group from Brooklyn. Or maybe, I don't know if they were from Brooklyn, but that was a popular record back then. So we did At the Hop. We did a pretty good copy of At the Hop, and we walked into one office. We used to look for an office with a piano for these publishers. And because Harvey would play while we were singing, that would keep us in tune also. And we went into one room, and there was a young Bobby Darin, before he was famous, sitting there. And we auditioned for him, really. And he liked us so much that he asked us to come back when to meet Don Kirshner and Al Lewis. They were partners at that time. Al Lewis wrote Blueberry Hill. He was a much older man. And he wanted them to hear us. So that's basically where it started, you know, when we went and auditioned for them. And they liked us also, but we also auditioned for Everlast and Holiday Records in Harlem because they were looking to put white groups on their label, which I think they didn't have any at that time. And they offered us to come and record with them, but we were sort of like looking at MGM as such a big thing and Cub Records, and so I think Harvey always felt we made a big mistake, that we would have had our record released if we recorded for Holiday Records. And then next thing you know, they introduced us to Sylvester Bradford. Sylvester Bradford wrote Tears on My Pillow, and we were amazed. He was so nice, and he was such a great piano player. And the only thing I remember about him is his personality and his music abilities, and that I think he was blind in one eye, and he wrote a song for Gene Vincent, and Gene Vincent didn't take the song, Lovin' with a Beat. So he said, we could do this, instead of it being a Gene Vincent type song, why don't we do it with a group and make like a rockabilly song out of it? And he played it on the piano for us, and we started rehearsing in that room with Bobby Darin there and Don Kirshner and everybody. And we finally, we thought we got it, and we needed a song for the other side of the record if we were going to record something. But meanwhile, they were preparing papers for us, for our parents to sign, because we were too young to sign anything with the record company. I mean, most of us were 17 years old. It was the recording, actually, the studio took place in February of 58. So in the meantime, we went home and we started thinking about writing a goofy song. And Harvey had a cousin, Maddie. Maddie was a very pretty young teenager, but she had habits that we used to make fun of, like she was always worried about her hair being too straight. She was always using the word like. So we made a song and we called it Like Maddie. And we wrote the words to it, and we wanted it to be goofy, so we said Stuart could do a falsetto, he should sing the song in falsetto, and I did the ba-da-da-da part of the song that you hear over and over again. And we had fun with that song. As a matter of fact, many years later, people thought that was the primary hit, not hit, but the song on the tape. So then I'll talk about, if you want, I could talk about the recording session.
I love that, yeah. I guess before that, quickly, could you talk a little bit about how you guys got that name, the Eltones?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. That was Elton Street in East New York, Brooklyn. And so I'm pretty sure Harvey and I came up with that name, and that's how we got the name, even though people thought that we were a Hispanic group and even in some of the old books from the 50s, they have us spelled E-L space tones. And when I met people at Ronnie I's concerts, and they knew I was on the Eltones, they thought we were Spanish also. And that's how we got the name. Elton Street, that's where I grew up till I was 9 years old with my grandparents.
Perfect. And then I guess you talk about the recording session itself now.
Well, the recording session was interesting because I don't remember much about it. I remember enough to make it, to tell a story. I know the A&R man at the recording session was Morty Kraft. Don Kirshner was there. I don't remember if Al Lewis was there, his partner. And the musicians, the two of the musicians that really, really were great was Panama Francis, who I think played piano and drums. And he played the piano in some of the music on the record. And the saxophone player was the wonderful Sam the Man Taylor. And him and Red Prysock did, I think, most of the middle parts of the songs in those days. So to have him there, he was eating a sandwich, a big hero, while we were getting ready. And I think he played some of the song with some of that hero still in his mouth, but it sounded great. And we asked him to hit some high notes in the middle of Lovin' With a Beat, and he did it. And but what happened was they made us do 17 takes that night. And they paid us each $20 for the evening. And Harvey and I never felt that they took the best take for the record. We were always disappointed. And we didn't sing with the band. The band played the song, and then we listened to the music while we were singing in a booth that we were in. And I remember the A&R man and Don Kirshner was sitting high up in a booth higher up in the room. And there was another group there called the 5 Reasons who were really good. And they sang some really nice songs, like one of the songs was called, I think, 12 O'Clock Rock. I can't remember the other side.
Go to School.
Go to School, right, thank you. And that was a good record, and they never got released either. What happened was they recorded a lot of groups in those days, and they put them on a shelf, and then when they wanted to release a record, they made a decision. And to tell you the truth, they made a good decision. They recorded the Impalas, which was a big hit also, group from Brooklyn, I believe. And that's the recording story.
I guess, so after, thinking about the recording session itself, how was that experience walking into the studio for the first time?
I don't remember walking into the studio or walking out, I just remember what it felt like when I was in the studio singing and how many times they made us sing the song,
Did you guys get a little hoarse towards the end, or?
I think we did mess up a few of the takes, I'm sure, and but we got along pretty good. Most of the time teenagers fight with each other, but we got along pretty good, and I enjoyed being there to watch the 5 Reasons do their thing too, because they were really impressive. But I think I was more impressed with the things that happened in that room with Bobby Darin. And one of the stories that I love to tell is we were sitting there one day, because we used to go there and rehearse with them and talk to them. I was sitting in that room, and remember, there were no parents involved in this. We did this all ourselves at 17 years old. They just signed papers, our parents. One of the parents, Harvey's mother, she's the one that got us the red chinos, the red plaid bucks, and the sweaters. And of course, that's a copy on the teenagers, because the sweaters. But we were sitting in that office with Bobby Darin and Don Kirshner, and a man walked in and said he was Jackie Wilson's manager. And he said, I want to play a song for you that we just recorded. I have a demo that we'd like to release, and I want to get your opinion. And he asked us all our opinion. And he played To Be Loved by Jackie Wilson. Well, we'd had to pick us up off the floor to give our opinion. I mean, how could you ask an opinion of one of the greatest singers of the 50s? He was wonderful. The song was great. I loved that song. So of course we all loved it and told him, you got to put that out there. And that was one experience that I'll never forget.
Wow.
Yeah.
So sorry.
No, that's okay.
So I guess after you guys made this record, I'm guessing you never heard it on the radio after that.
Yes, my mother heard it played on. It was a very sad day for my mother. She was very upset. She heard it played on the radio on a show called Make It or Break It. And he would play a song, and if he liked it, he would let it play. If he didn't like it, you would hear a smash that he would break the record, and our record got smashed. But we did also meet. There was a disc jockey. The disc jockeys that were popular back then was Jocko. I think he was in Pennsylvania. There was Alan Fredericks. He had the Night Train show. There was Alan Freed. So what we did was Harvey and I went to some of those people. Not that we didn't see Jocko, unfortunately. I love Jocko. We went to Alan Fredericks, to his studio, and introduced ourselves. We didn't even make an appointment. We just went, and we brought our record with us, and we asked him if he would play it, because they weren't playing our record. They weren't really pushing the record, the company. So we asked him if he would play the record, and he said, yeah, if you stay here and answer the phones and help me for that show, I'll play your record. And we did. We sat and answered calls for him, and he played our song. Also, we tried to see Alan Freed, but he walked right past us. We were waiting in the lobby of his building for him. But we tried very hard because we didn't have any help from the studio. They didn't really do anything for us after the record. So we reached a point then where we felt that we wanted to get released from MGM, from Don Kirshner, and we went to meet a man. I don't know how we found him or who introduced us, but we went to a man named Joe Cavallero. Joe Cavallero was a manager of Sal Mineo. And Joe Cavallero was very interested in us. We sang for him, we played him our records. Meanwhile, we went to a studio also and made a demo for our next record that we wanted, which was Do It by Moonlight and Honest I Do, that we wrote ourselves too. And Joe Cavallero got us some gigs. He got us, we sang at a nightclub on Ocean Parkway in Brooklyn called the Elegant Club. And we sang he put us in parks with other groups for summer shows, outdoors. Some of them, I used to think that it was a dream, but when I asked my friends on the group, they would tell me, no, you weren't dreaming, we really did sing there. We sang in Kings Highway at a show that the Shirelles were there singing. I'll never forget that. And a lot of high school proms, at least three proms in different high schools we sang at, you know. So that was it for the Eltones. It's as far as we got together.
How was those experiences singing at those, like at the proms and the parts, or with other groups in general?
Well, it was wonderful singing with famous groups. I mean, I don't remember getting to talk to them too much, but I felt it was an honor to sing, especially with the Shirelles. That was a biggie for me. And at the proms, it was nice because we had all these young girls screaming, and actually somebody even asked me for my autograph once. I said, I don't know what you wanted me autograph, but we didn't have a hit record or anything, but it was a lot of fun, the proms.
And I guess at those shows, would you guys sing Like Maddie and then Lovin' with a Beat, or would you guys sing other songs as well?
At the shows we sang, I never sang the demo. We never sang the demo at a show that I could remember. We basically we were singing most of the time the record, Lovin' with a Beat and Like Maddie, but mostly Lovin' with a Beat.
Cool. And could you tell me the story about the demo you guys made, like where you guys recorded that? And
oh yeah, I don't know how. Maybe Harvey was very good at finding things and doing things for the group, and he was the hardest worker of all and the most important person as far as writing the music, because he was a very good musician. So it was how we write the song again. Well, Like Maddie we wrote because of I explained. Oh, did I talk about that yet? We wrote Like Maddie, and because of Harvey's cousin. Lovin' with a Beat we didn't write. That was Sylvester Bradford. a great writer of songs. I mean, Tears on My Pillow was a great song, Little Anthony and the Imperials. And that was a big honor for me, that we would have the man who wrote that song, a song for us. To me, that was a big honor. And the other songs, Do It by Moonlight was just, we wanted to get into, it's like a little bit of a calypso rhythm type song or Latin rhythm or something. So we did that. We wanted an upbeat song, and I wasn't supposed to sing the lead of that song. Excuse my phone beeping. Stewart was our lead singer, but he didn't like me telling him how I wanted him to sing the song. So he told me, you do it. So I wound up being a lead singer for one song. I wasn't a great lead singer, but I couldn't even catch my breath. If you listen to the song very carefully, you'll see I lose my breath once or twice. And Honest I Do, Harvey wrote himself. And that was a ballad that some people loved, that song that we did. But I tried, in that song, I tried to sing like the bass, some of the great bass singers in rock and roll. So you'll hear me doing kind of weird things in the background. And I wasn't really a bass, I was more like a baritone, you know. The great basses were Spaniel's bass and the Plata's bass. Those were bass singers, you know. But that's a lot of things, a lot of good memories. And I always felt that since I spent my whole life in a different career, and I always felt that we did, even though we didn't have a record released, we did accomplish something at 17 years old. That was pretty rare. I mean, we got to meet people and make a record and go to do shows, and it took a lot of courage to do all of that. And I was always proud of it. Harvey, unfortunately, was disappointed because he really had high hopes for us to have a record released, and he felt that if we would have recorded in Harlem for Holiday Records, we would have done much better. But I was never sorry.
So after you guys, have the record, you guys are doing these shows. What was the reason you guys broke up as a group?
We really didn't break up. We just stopped singing together. We actually, my cousin and I found 3 other guys, and we started singing. We called ourselves the Cordovans, but most of our singing was on subway cars, on the streets, walking in the streets, or a couple of times we would get together and record on a reel-to-reel tape recorder. But 2 of the fellas that I went to high school with never felt we were good enough to go to a studio. I thought we were really good. The harmony was beautiful that we did. We sang the Moonglows sincerely, and I thought we did a really good job. Never as good as the Moonglows, but really good. But that didn't work out either. But the Eltones really didn't break up because Stewart is my cousin, and Harvey was my friend until he passed away in 2013. And only the one member of the group, Alan Shine, I never was able to locate him. So that's the story. So it wasn't like we broke up. We were finishing high school, getting ready to go to college or start careers. We couldn't make a living doing something like this. So we found our way to do different things.
So I guess more towards the 60s, 70s, 80s, this era now. What was the reason why you went to that studio and found the reel of Moonlight and Honest I Do?
It's because I save things. You know, some people, that's why I still have the sweater and a few other items that I never would throw away because it's part of my life. And some things in my life are important enough that I wanted to keep the memories. You know, the only thing I have now of my wonderful wife is the memories, and that's what keeps me going. Because I spent more than half my life married to a wonderful lady who just passed away recently, and that's why I kept everything. I kept whatever I could, and I still found it. I would like to find some other things, that I would take a lot of searching, but I know there's some reel-to-reel tapes with jamming, you know, things together, you know. And one of the funny things about the doo-wop era was people liked to sing in bathrooms. Like in high school, guys would get together and go into the men's room because the sound was better in the men's room. And I did that once at a concert with Willie Winfield. And he was the only one there that was an accomplished singer, but he didn't care. He was such a nice guy. He would sing with anybody. And a bunch of us got together and we tried to harmonize in the bathroom at a Ronnie I concert. That's another nice story.
And you mentioned a story earlier to me about you went to a show in New Jersey, and then someone on stage mentioned that you got. Could you tell that story?
Somebody. Oh yeah, I was at I can't remember her name, but she did a show on the radio every weekend. I think we were in Teaneck, New Jersey, and they used to have like doo-wop reunion shows like Ronnie I, but not as great as Ronnie I, but they would have at least a couple of groups there. And she knew Harvey. I don't know how, he must have contacted her, and she'd interviewed him on her show once. So we were sitting at the show, and she got on stage at the end of the show or in the middle, and she said, I want to introduce you all to two members of the Eltones. And apparently there were people there, surprising to me, that were either collectors or heard our record somehow, and we got an applause. And that was easily 50 years after the fact. So, and I remember turning around and looking at Harvey, because Harvey he was so happy. It made him so happy that it's like waiting his whole life to get recognition. And I'll never forget the look on his face at that show.
Yeah, it's such a great memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, could you tell me the story about how you brought the reel of Do It by Moonlight and then Honest I Do to Rhythm Records, and how that kind of got set up?
Okay, so I had the tape from the studio that I saved because they told me they were going to destroy it because they kept it so many years. They don't keep things forever. So I bought it from them, probably paid like $15 at the time. And then I had it in the house, and Barry Hertz, Harvey's brother, he asked me if he could take it to somebody he knew in Brooklyn who owned a record store, and that he could possibly put it on a 45 record, and but basically just for the collectors to have. And that's how that that's how that happened. That we wound up doing that. But I also, once that record was out, then some people put it on YouTube. Also, the way we got on YouTube originally was in around 1980, between 85 and 1987. This young man from Texas, who was part Mexican, part American, I believe, and he loved doo-wop music, just like the gentleman who's interviewing me now. And he asked me permission to put my record on YouTube. Well, once it got on YouTube, and I sent him photographs that he could use of the group. Once it got on YouTube, I started getting emails from France, Mallorca, Spain, Australia, England, and all parts of the United States, of people who collected music from back in the 50s. That was amazing. I couldn't believe it. And then I started counting the people that were watching it on YouTube. And the Lovin' With a Beat was already getting over 1,000 right away. You know, I think now it's one of the posts on YouTube has over 10,000 views. So that was a big thing for me because I waited, let's see, from 50, I waited about 40 years for that.
How was that experience seeing, you know, all these comments on YouTube about your songs?
Yeah, all the comments were pretty good. And I was very surprised that people really liked it. That, of course, that makes you feel like, too bad they didn't release it, you know. Mm-hmm. Maybe not too bad, because then maybe we'd be in a business where we wouldn't have done well in our lives, you know, who knows. But, you know, we all had a good life as far as being successful in whatever we chose to do. So, you know, but the music business is a tough business.
Mm-hmm. And I guess quickly, I guess during the time you guys were in the Eltones, could you tell me a little bit about each of the guys in the group and kind of like what they were like?
Teaching?
How like their personalities was like?
Oh, personalities. Okay. Well, Stewart, my cousin Stewart, the lead singer, and Alan Shine, they used to fight a lot. They used to argue a lot. I remember that. I'm trying to remember personalities. Harvey and I were close because we went to we were in the same classes in junior high school. That's when we met, in junior high school. And we used to listen to music on the radio, and I'd have my finger on the pause button of my Revere tape recorder. And if when he played a new song, I would release my finger and I would get the song. If I liked it, I would keep it. And if I didn't, I'd go back on the tape, wait for the next song. I did that for hours and hours every day after school. And we used to, and then when we heard a song that we liked, Harvey and I, we would immediately go to the record store in Brooklyn and see if she had it there. And we bought a lot of records that way. And they used to let us listen to the records also before we bought them on 45. And I even have copies of some Doo-Wop records on 78 records. I think I have Why the Fools Fall in Love on 78. I don't remember, I'm not sure. But that's how we did it in those days, because my father, instead of a record player, he bought me a tape recorder. And those reel-to-reel tapes were very, very different, because when Jocko or Alan Freed or Alan Fredericks played a doo-wop song, they didn't just let you listen to it, they talked during the song sometimes. So I have the original recording they're on cassettes right now, of people talking during a song, especially Jocko. Jocko used to always yell during a song. Like one time I went to a party and I brought my tapes with me, and this song, he played a song, I can't remember the name of the song, it was an upbeat doo-wop song. And in the middle of the song, he said, while it's playing, he said, "I want to wish happy birthday to Arthur Spitzer." That's exactly. And so I have that song with Jocko wishing happy birthday to Arthur Spitzer, and everybody at that party for years never let me forget about Arthur Spitzer, because he played that song at the party. And the guy that recorded my tapes or put them onto cassettes, he wanted them because the jockeys were all on those tapes. He said, that makes it even more valuable as far as history and stuff like that. And Jocko was the best.
That's so cool. You know, you don't hear stories about, you know, people actually recording the radio back then.
I did it all the time. Yeah, I recorded American Bandstand, a lot of his shows. We sent a letter once to the gentleman from American Bandstand, I forgot his name.
Dick Clark?
Dick Clark, right. We sent a letter to Dick Clark. We wanted him to play our record. And basically, I don't know how it was worded, but the message back was we would have to give him a huge percentage of our whatever money we would earn. And that's what happened in the 50s. He would get a huge percentage. The manager would get a huge percentage. The publisher would get a huge percentage. And even though we wrote the song, they would take credit for being co-writers of the song because it's on the record, their name. They would get a percentage of that also, and there'd really be nothing left for the groups. Because most of the groups that were famous in the 50s, they wound up becoming janitors and other tedious jobs because they made so much money. They could have made so much money, but that's another story.
Sure.
So we never responded to Dick Clark.
I can understand why. Perfect. I guess another question I had for you was, what do you remember how the 5 reasons were? Like, kind of like, did you guys talk with them, or did you guys see them after that, or just during that session?
I just saw them that night. I liked them. They were from the Lower East Side of Manhattan. They looked like they were nice-looking kids, but they looked like they reminded me of like they were like a gang, you know, and they surprised me because I always felt that Doo-Wop was black music and that nobody could sing black music except the blacks. And so when I saw them perform that night, I was very impressed because we just wanted to copy the music. That's the way I look at it. And also I wanted to say one other thing. The real groups that started Doo-Wop and rock and roll were the Ink Spots, which is way before, and the Ravens. Those are the original groups that were there way before. Even the Ravens were probably the greatest group ever because the bass singer, Jimmy Ricks, was the greatest. I mean, a lead singer who was a deep bass, and he was wonderful to listen to. And they had the best first tenor I ever heard. He could break glasses in your house when he hit his high notes. Yeah. So people should know about the Ravens and the Ink Spots. Because even the song My Prayer, that wasn't the Platter song. That came originally from the Ink Spot.
Perfect. So I guess could you kind of show the items you have here?
Okay. Well, we'll start off with this. This picture is as old as 68 years old. Am I on now? Okay. The reason I like this picture is because many, many years ago, I put the check stub that I was paid by MGM Records for the recording studio that night. And I'll read it to you. It says, 2/24, the date, February 24th, has my name. It has the amount I was paid, $20 for an all-night session, sang the song 17 times. Then underneath it, it says advance against royalties covering the recording session by the Eltones on February 24th, 1958. So I put that in it with the picture.
Wow, that's so cool. And then I guess the big thing you have still is part of your original uniform.
Right. So this is Scout, by the way. He's my buddy. So he wanted to be part of this, so I said, okay. This is the Eltone sweater, copy of the teenager sweater, really. This sweater, the last time I wore this sweater was 68 years ago. And now that I'm over 80 years old and lost a lot of weight, it probably still fits me. And is the back. The sweater was worn with red chino pants. and red plaid buck shoes. I wish I had those, but those I never saved.
Do you remember where you guys got those uniforms?
Yes, we bought this in a store on Kings Highway in Brooklyn. I think it's still there. I'm not sure, but I saw it on some kind of memory thing, but maybe they're old pictures. I think the store was called Levine's on Kings Highway in Brooklyn. And Harvey's mother went to the store and ordered it made for us. She picked out she picked the outfits out for us. She was very into us singing. She was happy her son had a good hobby, you know. And the records, this record, this is the original record, a little tattered, that was given to us, given to disc jockeys in the 50s. And it says, disc jockey copy, not for sale. And it has Lovin' With a Beat and Like Maddie. And the thing I like the most that I saved about it is that in the sleeve, when they gave the disc jockey the record to play, and you know they had payola in those days, so if they didn't pay the disc jockey, he wasn't going to play it. And it says, Dear DJ, did you ever try Lovin' With a Beat? It's real great on Cub Records by the Eltones. Have a spin on me. And this came from Vanderbilt Music at 1650 Broadway, it says on there. That's the building. That's where everybody went to audition and to try to get contracts. The most famous Doo-Wop building probably in the world is the Brill Building.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's a great souvenir. And of course the collectors love to have this, but this is the only copy I have left now.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Like, is there anything else you wanted to add about your experience with the Eltones?
No, I think I covered a lot. I feel like maybe too much, but I want to say I want to thank Braden for doing this with me, because it's a big thrill for me to reminisce and go back in my life to this wonderful time, because I feel bad for some kids growing up today that they didn't get the experience of growing up in the 50s. 50s was a wonderful time. Doo-Wop shows at the Brooklyn Paramount. I went to Harlem to see shows with Harvey. I saw great groups there. And the audience was much, much quieter than at the Brooklyn Paramount, so you could actually hear the groups singing. And those were great days. The parties were wonderful that we had as teenagers with the songs. You spend your whole life remembering even who you might have danced with to Earth Angel.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking about your group.
Oh, thank you, Braden. Thank you very much.